Joe Lacob, TK Podcast. Let's go all the way back to July 8th, 2022. The Golden State Warriors are still in the shadow of their own parade. All right, Joe, it appears there's an escalation sensation going on with your salaries. So what do you do about that? Tim asks Joe on if $400 million or so is the limit on spending. Take a listen.
Is there a number that you put up there for Bob, or did you guys have a number like we can't go over 420, total commitment, or 450?
You're really good at reporting. You're one of the smarter reporters out there, but I'm going to tell you your numbers are kind of messed up.
Okay.
I will just say that. You were throwing numbers out like 400 and 500.
I'm like, the multiples go crazy.
Those numbers are not even remotely possible. It's just not.
Those numbers are not even remotely possible.
Wait, and he was talking about
400 and north of 400. 420, 405.
This year was 370. Next year is projected to be 471, and that's with Dante and with Draymond in the fold. So what I'm hearing him say to Tim Kawakami is that 471, we're not doing 471 is what I heard him say.
TK says it a different way. And again, coming up with this number, $400 million, is that the limit?
To assume that we would go $400 or $500 million, and that's not accurate. It's just not possible.
If you game it out, it could end up there, but obviously there's ways around that.
We're not far from it. I'm just saying it's not. You can't expect those kinds of numbers unless we were to raise everyone's ticket prices immensely, and I don't think anyone wants that.
Okay, so Joe Lacob.
Oh, thanks.
Now he did
thanks,
say,
Draymond.
He said we could get close, which they did.
370.
370. The Warriors, believe it or not, as rich as they are, and as much as things already cost to be a consumer with the Warriors, even this business would prefer, I know this is controversial, at the end of the year, to have made money. And you brought up an interesting point during the break, which is that I think people run around thinking that this is Joe Lacob. Joe Lacob owns the Warriors, and Joe Lacob owns the Warriors. So if the Warriors make money, then Joe pockets that money. What's the percentage of the team that Joe owns?
Joe, according to the internets, owns 35% of the Golden State Warriors. And Peter Guber, his original investment partner, among a group of investors, Peter Guber owns 20% of the team. So the Lacob and Guber tandem, when we all think about Joe Lacob, he owns the Warriors. Well, yes, he owns the biggest piece at 35%. Peter Guber's at 20%. And there's an investment company called Arctos Sports Partners, and I believe their stake is now up to 13 or maybe as high as 15%.
Okay,
so when it comes to these big decisions, it's not as simple as Joe saying, $500 million, are you with me?
Right. In other words, there's other people he's got to check with or answer to. Peter and Joe own 55% of the team.
Right.
They are the faces. They are the controlling interest. They have a majority interest together. But yes, Joe does not. It's not like Joe doesn't have other people he needs to talk to before Giannis joins the team or whatever the hell's going to happen, right? Okay, so there's that. Now, we're not done yet because now we flash forward to January of this year. And the issue again comes up. If a $400 million payroll is possible or impossible. Again, this is Tim Kawakami with Joe on the TK Show.
It's not possible without losing quite a bit of money at the bottom line. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
I did say that, and it is, from a business perspective, an almost insane thing to even consider. But I think we're going to have to wait and see, because the truth is winning matters. And I want to win another championship. We want to win another championship this year, and I'll probably say that at the end of this year.
I know you will.
But let's see how this season goes. Let's see every week, every month, every game. Anything can happen. Look at 2019. Two of our best players got serious injuries in consecutive games. God forbid that should ever happen again. My point is, things can change very quickly. I know you'd like to be able to plan these things out, but the past is not the present. And the present is not the future. They're all different. And right now, we're in the present, and we're trying to win. And I think we have a good shot at that. I think we're coming together. And, the trade deadline is coming up. We'll see if there's a way we can improve our team. And if we could obviously improve our financial situation for going forward, we'd love to do that, but not at the sacrifice of being able to win. So we got to evaluate this in real time, but with a look towards the future as well. So I can't really answer the question right now, other than to say, have you ever known me not to be aggressive? Mm-hmm. We are aggressive. We'll do whatever we can do if it makes sense. And we're in a winning, real championship mode.
Okay, so that's not a no. And in fact, at the end, it's almost like his sort of no turns into a sort of yes. Am I aggressive?
It's a definite maybe.
I'm aggressive.
Yeah.
And we're in win mode. And I think that the Warriors, though it was a frustrating finish, did enough to show Joe they're not that far away. I think also you got a really cool nugget in there about the James Wiseman trade, which was, he said, at the deadline, we will see if we can, make ourselves better, and if we can do something financially to set ourselves up a little bit better in the future. They did both. In the moment. I know people are frustrated by the loss of James Wiseman.
It was a minuscule savings relative to what they need to do to get down to a number that he's talking about.
But it was when people don't understand, that was north of $30 million, almost $40 million that they saved by turning James Wiseman into GP2. Okay,
about, $15 million per year in salary and taxes.
Right. So now you've got GP2 in the fold. They became a better team. They saved a little money. Does that now get injected into things going forward? All I heard there is, I don't want to go to $400 million, but it's not out of the question if we think we can win and we're aggressive and we're almost maniacal in our thought that we can win.
Right.
And so I think you get the answer there mainly, which is, I don't think they're going well over 400, but I think that they'll dance in that neighborhood if they feel good about it. Now, the issue is, as you detailed, you're at 470 right now.
471.
Now, I think Dante's gone, so call it more like 445.
Sure.
But a lot of money is still going to need to come off. How are you going to do it?
Well, if your goal is to get some of the money off, then it's as plain as the nose in your face. And if your goal is to get closer to 400 and still put out a competitive winning product, and I'm not sure if he believes it the way that you said it, which is, we're still close. We still believe we can win a championship. But if you're Joe Lacob and you've got Bob Myers and Steve Kerr underneath you and you have faith in their viewpoint, and Steve Kerr is telling you, Joe, I said it on Willard and Dibs, I believe we can still win a championship with this core. If he tells Joe that, Joe's got to believe him because Steve Kerr's won 9 of the last 27 championships. So then Joe looks at the numbers and says, well, we're not doing $451 million. And with Dante off, it's probably down near 430 or whatever, that from 470 to 440, whatever it is. The easiest way to still maybe be competitive and win is to get rid of Jordan Poole. Mm-hmm. If Jordan Poole's 28.7 next year turns into 20 million, if you trade 28 and you get, let's say you get 22 back, you save 6 million times 5, you save 36 million. Now your total number is closer to 404, 405. You might be able to live with that.
Yep. And I do believe that there is an avenue to save another, who knows what it is. It could only be $10 million. But I think you can save a little bit by turning this Draymond Green opt-in into an opt-out new 3-year deal where instead of 27, next year he's making 24. Something like that. I really do think that's possible. People sit here and go, why Draymond not going to do that? Andrew Wiggins took 24. Andrew Wiggins is making 24.
These are two different individuals.
They are. One of them's younger. One of them's
better.
That goes back and forth night to night with those two players.
Well, who are you asking?
Yeah.
If you ask Draymond Green, are you better than Andrew Wiggins?
Okay, but Dibs, we
and that's all.
Don't
Mark,
we do this?
Honestly, this is the only thing that matters in this conversation.
I know, but we do this a lot with Draymond, where I feel like because he's crazy and because he is this persona, and it's so big and so aggressive, because of that, we tag him with characteristics that I don't think ever have been him. We say, oh, he's not self-aware. And then he does come in and go, I got an idea. I should come off the bench. Or when we hear the word, he's going to demand a max contract, and then he takes $25 a year for 4 years.
Well, his max demand was this past off season,
right? But
according to sources in the Athletic,
sure, the words. Do you know what I mean? Like
Anthony Slater and MT2 both reported it.
But I'm looking at behavior, not words. And Draymond Green, what did he do? He came to the microphone, and granted, these are just words also.
Right.
But I believe they're based on action. Why do you think Draymond comes to the mic last week and goes, I want to be a Warrior for the rest of my life? I want to be here with the people I came in with, and I want to leave with them.
Because he wants to put pressure on the organization to give him an extension. That's why.
Or this massive deal is not out there. His agency, it would be them not doing their job to not know what Draymond's value is right now on the open market. And I think Draymond's looking at two things. A, sure, there's money. And then B, where are we going to do this? Do I really want to ride the last however many he's got left? Call it 3, 4, 5, whatever he's got left. Do I want to do this with the Pistons?
Right.
Do I want to do this with Charlotte?
Depends what the money is.
Portland?
And I think that he comes out and says what he says because he knows that if he puts it out there, there are many Warrior fans who love Draymond and they want Draymond to be here for his whole career. There are many fans who want Steph, Clay, and Dre to stay together until the very, very end. So Draymond comes out and says that, knowing full well that puts pressure on the organization to do something about giving him some sort of an extension. And
maybe.
That has no bearing on what's out there in the market. And the other thing I want to point out, because you're right about Draymond Green, he's very smart, he's very calculated, he's willing to come off the bench, he's willing to admit that the punch was a big reason why they didn't play well, and he all but says it was my fault that we lost the NBA Finals and all the rest of it. Has he ever given up one single dollar? Has he ever pulled a Steph Curry and said, I'm going to sign for 4 and 44? There's no evidence to that.
Well, but I also have no idea what he could have gotten on the open market 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I have no idea.
Right.
He took $100 million for 4 years. If you look at that now, if Draymond had been on the market 2 years ago, do you think he's worth more than $25 a year? I do.
Well, if he tears up his contract right now for next year.
Well, now he's on the back end. But go ahead. Yeah.
27.6, I think. Yeah. 27.6. Mm-hmm. So if he tears that up and goes on the open market, does he get a contract with an average annual value of 27.6?
I don't know.
I would say probably not. If there's a deal out there for $3 and $90, and I'm the Warriors, I say Godspeed, Draymond. You'll always be a Warriors in our heart. We love you. Go sign that deal.
But I don't think Draymond looks at it that way.
We'll see.
You can't tell me that 3 and 90 in Portland is worth more than 3 and 75 here. You can't convince me of that. Your brand takes more than a $15 million hit if you go hang out with Dame Lillard in the 12 seed for the next 3 years. It takes a hit. And he is a hard guy to assess financially because he's non-traditional. He's not, right? Even when Bobby Marks was on earlier, it was like, Klay Thompson's a shooting guard who can shoot $30 million. There's this math.
Yeah.
Well, what box does Draymond fit into? He fits in the Draymond box. We got shooting guards who can shoot, point guards who can score, point guards who can pass.
Seriously,
we got big guys who can
numbers,
score.
He's a vet min guy.
Right, big guys that can play defense.
Yeah, right.
And then we got small forwards who can slash. Oh, and then we got Draymond.
We got a point forward who can guard 1 through 5, and he's going to run your offense and also be the most menacing, frustrating player in the history of your team.
Lead the league in technicals, potentially
oh my God.
Drive your teammates nuts, and be the face of your franchise. All at the same time.
All in one possession.
What the hell is that? I don't know what that's worth.
How do you value that?
Who is that? There's no comp. There's no comp to Draymond. So I just think because he is such a, what's the word? Gosh, he loves conflict. Okay, so when someone loves conflict.
He's an agitator.
Right, but therefore we think every situation is based on conflict. I don't think Draymond Green's at the mic saying, I want to be a Warrior forever because he's trying to put pressure on the organization and the negotiation has started. I think the conversations have already been happening. And he's saying that maybe because he feels good about where the conversations are.
Right. Or maybe he's saying that because it's just his honest, genuine feeling coming off a loss and coming off a season where he feels like what happened in October set the table for what they were unable to fix, and he feels like we're still close enough, the three of us core players, to make this work. I want to make it work here. I want this to happen. But between those words and him getting a deal, and this on the heels of the report coming out last, I want to make sure I get it right, July, from The Athletic, where MT2 and Slates both reported, according to sources, that he asked for the max. So he wants the max in July, and the organization gives him the, Steve, are you still there? Yeah. Treatment. And I'm sure he wasn't happy about that. Jordan Poole gets a bag. Draymond socks Jordan Poole. The season goes south, and now Draymond's looking at a situation where he probably knows he's not getting the max now, but I don't think that the team is going to be able to say, Draymond, we want to give you 3 and 70 or even 3 and 75. Draymond, we want you to take a pay cut.
3 and 75.
I don't see him accepting that.
But see, I don't look at it, and maybe I'm delusional. I don't see 3 and 75 as a pay cut. I don't see that at all. I see someone getting 2 more guaranteed years at 25 a year, which is almost what you're making this year at 27. Like, Draymond Green is not going to have his Warriors career derailed by $2 million. He gets fined more than that in a year.
That's fair.
I mean, that's not really true, but it seems like it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that because we're fans and maybe there's some jealousy here, maybe there's some cynicism here, we've been trained to think all athletes are driven by top dollar all the time. They're not. Andrew Wiggins just proved it to you. You know damn well he could have gotten more than that if he went on the open market.
I think it's unfair to use Andrew as a comp for virtually anything. He's the most unique first player taken in the history of sports, I would say.
Maybe, but let's not act like he's the only one ever who took a deal where we went, I look like, you probably give a little nod to the team there.
It's 1 in 100 players who do that.
But
Draymond Green was looking for the max, which would have been 5 years. It would have been 4 years, 164.2. So he was looking for $41 million a year in a max. So you're going to go to him and say, "Here's 25 a year."
What does Draymond love just as much as money, maybe more?
I don't know. Draymond Green, probably winning is what you're looking for.
There you go.
Right
there you go. Hey, Draymond. And he gets that. Look, Tom Brady
We'll see if he gets that.
Tom did this for his whole career. He did it for his whole career. Let's not act like he's not a maniacal competitor as well.
Well, he was married to a billionaire.
Okay.
Which helps.
Draymond's worried about money?
I don't know what he's worried about.
I mean, my gosh.
I think he's more worried about respect. And if he turtles up and takes a deal for 3 years and $70 million,
but I mean,
he's going to feel like he's getting less than he was worth.
Would you? Okay.
You know what I mean, though, about the ego part of it?
I totally know what you mean. But I also think, just forget NBA for a second. Any human being, okay? Take your salary right now, okay?
I got no choice but to take it.
Take it. And then if I came to you and I said, hey, we want you to take 7% less next year than what's in your contract. However, we're going to tack 2 more onto the back end at basically pretty close to the same rate. And so we're going to extend you out. You take 7% less next year in exchange for 2 more years of security at almost the same price. I think that's like, most people say yes to that. You say yes to that, don't you? That's a better deal.
It depends on how you feel about your ability to go on the open market and get more.
It does.
And if he's a clutch guy and the Lakers have cap room, which they do, and if they flame out in 5 against Denver because their defense stinks, we may be onto something there.